Today I had my first full day back in Rome and I got to hang out with a local, which was wonderful. So I danced the night away until like 4:30 a.m. or something like that. And then I woke up around 10ish and headed out. Also, it was daylight savings and they sprung forward an hour. So not a lot of sleep, but considering I still feel quite spunky and was told that I looked fresh. Hooray. So I have a customer at work and one of her childhood friends now lives in Rome and has lived here for about 20-ish years. So he offered to meet up with me and walk around with me. And I, of course, was like, whenever you need to go and do your own thing, just let me know. And then he was like, oh, I feel like I'm boring you. I keep dragging you around. I was like, no, not at all. So we ended up hanging out for like 7 hours, just looking at all of these amazing churches and all these little secret kind of places. I mean, not really secret if you do your research, but for someone like myself who's just kind of walking around, it was so perfect to have a local telling you all these things. He also has an amazing memory for facts, historical facts, legends, etc. So I feel like I learned so much, so I thought I would share it with you guys today. So the first church that we met at was the Santa Maria Maggiore, and it was just gorgeous. You walked in and you're just like, wow. A lot of the churches had a similar vibe happening with the ceiling. It was the first one of the day though, so it was especially awe-inspiring. We did have to queue up. It's Palm Sunday today, so everyone was anxious to get in there for the mass that was happening. So we just kind of quietly got in and hung out near the back to check everything out, but it was just beautiful. And he told me an interesting fact about a lot of the churches here. Marble was taken from old temples and other places and repurposed. They made sort of mosaics on the floor, and you actually see it in tons of the different churches that we went to. So every time I walked in, I was like, oh. And it's called a particular kind, Cosmatisecchi. I'm probably saying it wrong, but it was a specific family, I believe, that repurposed it and started doing this. The gold on the ceiling apparently is actually from America. So when Christopher Columbus went there, he was sending back ships and ships of gold, and then the king and queen gave a bunch of it to the Vatican, and the Vatican used it to decorate those churches. So I thought that was really neat as well. After that, we went over to St. Peter in Shanes. Cool story there. He said that St. Peter was held with these chains, and then they cut them in half and kept some here in Rome and kept the other half in Constantinople at the time, or Istanbul. Eventually they brought them back, and supposedly magically they back together, so you can see them within there, which is kind of fun. It's an interesting story anyways. They also had 3 paintings in there that just were gorgeous. The darkness surrounding them, but then the light as well. It was just so neat. You just walked in this church, and you're like, oh wow, that's a beautiful church. And then you go around the corner, and then suddenly, boom, there's these amazing paintings, or there's an amazing statue, or just the ceiling or the floor. It floors me the whole time. Oh, pun intended. After that, we went to the Basilica di Santa Prassede. I'm so sorry, I am terrible with names. And this one I really, really loved. It had this blue ceiling in a variety of the areas, but specifically right over top of the altar. So it was a dark, vivid blue with little star points in it. It was so gorgeous. Then we also passed by this really cool cafe. It was basically called like Cafe and Plants, and they had a bunch of plants really simply planted around it, super white, and it had a ping pong table in the middle of it, so you could get an espresso and play around a ping pong. I could see that being really nice as like a work coffee break, go for 5 minutes down there, get a espresso, and play some ping pong with a friend. It could be good. Lunch, I believe we went to a place called Ivo e Trastevere, and he showed me some local dishes. So artichoke is just finishing being in season right now, and they deep fry it, and it makes the little leaves like little chips, and then you get to the center, which they steamed and then fried, and it's just so tender, and you put lemon on it. It was wonderful. The flavor was fantastic. Also got to try this other vegetable. They call it penterelle. And he said it sort of looks like dandelions, larger dandelions, and they shave off, or they cut off with like a little paring knife the leafy bit, and you just have the middle stalk that's light green in color. And it just tastes very fresh. It doesn't taste like anything else that I can think of, just really fresh. I'm sure it's mostly water, kind of like celery, but it doesn't have that that celery has. It was just green and fresh and delicious, and they toss it with some garlic, some, I would imagine, white wine vinegar maybe, and olive oil. Really nice. And then they also had pizza. So I got a pizza. It was delish. Very thin crust. He told me that Roman pizza is the thin crust, and then there's the Neapolitan, that's the thicker crust, and often it's a bit more chewy. So I kind of found that distinction interesting. From there, we went and saw a Bernini statue. So I'm planning to go to another church that has this Bernini statue that my mother loves in 2 days. But this one was at San Francisco Ripa, and this beautiful Bernini. It was lit up so beautifully, and they do this thing, you have to put €1 in for the light to turn on. I'm sure it protects things, / then the church makes more money, yay for them. The fabric was just so good. The picture doesn't really do it justice. It looks like she's rolling. It looks like she's in mid-movement. It looks like she's moving. The way the fabric looks is so impressive. Her face is beautiful. And again, like, you just walk in this church, you're like, wow, what a great church. And then you go around the corner and you're like, hello, Bernini statue. So very cool. He also told me about the Four Rivers Fountain. So apparently Bernini and Borromini had a feud going on. So like one built this church, one built that church, and Bernini apparently did the fountain, the Four Rivers, and the figure that they have in there is actually, he's covering his eyes with one towards the church that the other guy made. AKA like, oh, it's so ugly, I don't want to look at it. And then there's another hand pushing out like this, which apparently is also, it's crappily made, so I'm helping you because it needs help. So it was this fountain that was made sort of as a dish. It's a beautiful fountain though. I had no idea. I had just admired it a couple days ago, but he filled me in on that story as well. Then we went to St. Mary of the Angels, which I think was my favorite. It's hard to say. They were all really cool. It was converted from an old bathhouse, at least part of it. You can see the bathhouse goes on, and that's an archaeological museum, I believe. But it's just so big. You walk in and you feel like an ant. He told me that a lot of famous people, if they die, they have their funerals there because it's so big and fancy. You walk in and there's this beautiful window that looks almost like the Milky Way is in it. And then you walk into the main area and it's just massive. A, it being a church blows my mind. B, when it was a bathhouse, I can't imagine going to a place like that to go to a bathhouse. So cool. I love history. And that was it. I ended up walking around a little bit more. I got this stuff, this Bellini stuff. It's this peach delicious fresh stuff, so I'm gonna bring home. Came home, made dinner, and then tomorrow I'm off to my food tour, so I can't wait for that. Obviously, I'm gonna be filming a bunch of stuff. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good one.